Good evening. I'd like to call the August 12th, 2014 Longmont City Council meeting to order. This is our regular session. Could we please start with a roll call?
Yes, Mayor Coombs.
Here.
Council members Bagley.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Finley.
Here.
Levison.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Santos.
Here.
Mayor Coombs, we have a quorum.
Okay, let's stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, sorry about being a little bit late starting today, so I've already got the list of people that are signed up for first call public invited to be heard. Speakers who do not place their name on the list will have an opportunity to speak at final call public invited to be heard or at any of the agenda items during the meeting. So now we have the approval of the minutes. On July 8th, I'm going to recuse myself from that because I was not here on July 8th. So can I have a motion? Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move we approve the minutes.
Councilmember Lawson.
I believe if this is the minutes that we had the presentation from Longmont Area Economic Council, there was a misspelling of Andy Bade's last name. I can't remember if it's this one or the next one. I don't have my packet pulled up yet. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Then I second the motion.
All right, let's vote. And I will abstain. Okay, that passes 6-0. Okay, next we have the July 11th regular session, which was a continuation meeting. Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I also move that we approve the minutes of the July 11th meeting.
Second. Okay, and since I was there for that meeting, I'll go ahead and vote. Let's vote. Oops. Okay, that passes 7-0. Okay, next we have the July 22nd regular session meeting. Can I have a motion? Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move we approve those minutes as well.
Second. All right, that's moved in second. Let's vote.
Got your back, Bonnie.
That passes 7-0. So, Valerie, are there any agenda revisions?
Mayor Coombs, I was just wanted to remind you that there was a new attachment 2 for item 9G, which was the Jim Ham Pond Capital Improvement Program.
Okay. Is there a report from the city manager?
No report, Mayor and Council.
Okay. So the first person on the list to speak tonight is Gordon Pedro. Please come down and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor, City and Council. I'm here to talk about fracking issues. As you're aware, last Monday, Governor Hickenlooper and Congressman Polis cut a deal which took off the November ballot 2 initiatives pertaining to reasonable regulation of oil and gas operations. The consensus opinion of numerous commentators of all political stripes is that the compromise was aimed at protecting Governor Hickenlooper's political backside and ensuring the re-election of Senator Mark Udall. Despite the governor's rhetoric, it does not really seem to be about reducing the land use conflicts involving oil and gas operations. The governor is trying to suck you, the Longmont City Council, into his partisan political gamesmanship, hoping you will provide cover for his exposed political rear end. I hope you will remain focused on your task of fighting for Longmont's home rule charter and protecting the health, safety, and quality of life of your residents. The governor hopes you will believe that the 18-member commission he plans to handpick to recommend legislation for the 2015 session of the General Assembly is actually going to provide some semblance of local control over the toxic fracking process. If he can convince you to put your hope in the commission, then he knows you will let down your guard. Any member of the city council who has gone to speak to the governor's hand-picked, industry-stacked Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission already knows how individuals will be treated who do not agree with the Governor Hickenloopers when it comes to regulating oil and gas operations. In the long run, I believe we will find the only reason the governor is appointing a study commission is to push this issue past the November election. After the election, he will direct the commission to either produce the recommendations he wants, he will kill undesirable recommendations in the legislative process, or he will veto the bill he does not like. I find it extremely interesting that 2 days after announcing his new study commission, Governor Hickenlooper joined his friends at the Colorado Oil Gas Association, COGA, for a conference. At that time he said, quote, "If we get legislation, there is a reasonable good chance we will buy considerable time." End of quote. After all his rhetoric, I would have expected to hear his hopes of getting reasonable local regulation of oil and gas operations that protect all of our communities. But he emphasized, buy considerable time. The second fling farm the governor is attempting to pull on Longmont residents involves the direction to his hand-picked COGCC dismissing the lawsuit against the regulations Longmont adopted in June 2012. If the governor were honestly trying to resolve this lawsuit, he would have it dismissed with prejudice. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Eisenberg. Please state your name and address, please.
My name is Jeff Ilsman. I live at 619 Crawford Circle in the greatest city in the nation, Longmont, Colorado. I have the privilege to serve on the Transportation Advisory Board since about 2.5 years now. And last night, for whatever reason, they decided to reelect me as chairman. So I'm here to talk about the street funds sales and use tax. Now, I'm talking now because we have to take off to the airport to pick up my mother-in-law, so we may not make it to the next speaking opportunity. And I have to tell you, not that I'm here at all, because about an hour ago I was locked up at the DMV because they were pretty crowded here, back to school rush, and plus my license had expired, so I couldn't leave early. Had to get it fixed. But the last time I was here, while listening to Mr. Wolfram discuss the street fund sales and use tax, an amusing thought occurred to me. Wouldn't it be nice if RTD had to come back to the people every 5 or 10 years to authorize a new RTD tax? The sales and use tax pays for maintaining and improving our 300 miles of streets here in Longmont, and the staff would immediately correct me and say, no, that's 1,200 lane miles. They like to keep track of exactly how many lanes they have to maintain and improve here. Unlike other transportation resources, these streets, or the use tax, these resources that the tax funds are used virtually every day by everybody and by most people many times a day. When staff started discussing the street fund sales and use tax with the Transportation Advisory Board, we vigorously questioned them, as we always do, and especially about their recommendations and about their ballot language. I have to put my glasses on. Sorry. Okay, after staff defended their positions, showing us how much rigorous research they'd been through, and after having debated and voted on each recommendation separately, TAB finally concurred with staff and with their recommendations. Hopefully you will see the staff's recommendations, you'll see them as the example of good government that they actually are. And we'll hang around here. I'll hang around here as late as I can if you have any questions, if we get into that other speaking opportunity or whatever we want to do. So I certainly encourage you to, this should be a slam dunk. You should be able to approve this pretty easily. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, Mr. Sean.
I actually hadn't planned, Keith Essinger, 2199 Creekside Drive, Longmont. I actually hadn't planned to come down and speak tonight, but I read an article in paper, not our paper, online, that compelled me to actually come down, because I want you people, council members, mayor, to understand as you go into quote-unquote negotiations with the COGCC as far as the regulations lawsuit, not to trust these guys long enough to blink. Hickenlooper showed up at a meeting on August 8th with South Metro Denver Chamber of Commerce. I want to read some statements from the article, and I hope that all of you will be insightful enough to see how they prove this point. And this is a quote from him. Some of these are quotes from Hickenlooper. People ask me, and this is in regard to the 18-member commission that he has set up. People ask me, who's going to pick them? I am, Hickenlooper said. The buck stops here, and I guarantee you we're going to have everybody pissed off again. And I'm sorry for the language, but that's not my language. That's John Hickenlooper's language. The one criteria is that everyone who is going to be on that list is someone who believes we can get to a yes on a compromise. In this article, it goes on to say, instead of the voters, it will be the task force that will take up those issues and that will provide recommendations for potential legislation to the General Assembly. But Republican lawmakers are already feeling uneasy about the commission, and their concerns were heightened following comments Hickenlooper made during the Energy Summit in Denver earlier this week. According to the Associated Press, Hickenlooper said that the task force, quote, success is dependent upon it ending in regulation, end quote. That comment didn't sit well with House Minority Leader Brian Del Grosso of Loveland. Quote from him, we should go into it from the premise that the commission take a look at whether we actually need regulations. Del Grosso said in an interview prior to the Governor's Chamber of Commerce event, quote, he's starting with the premise that it's going to be set up to regulate. Hickenlooper said that he would like to see the task force effort result in some kind of legislation, even if it's merely taking existing regulation and codifying it. We're not going to, and this is really blows me away. We're not going to be talking about air quality. We're not going to be talking about water quality, he said. We're really going to look into surface use issues, a very narrow set of issues. This man will betray every opportunity that he has.
Okay, I guess it's time for ordinances on second reading. You want to introduce the next item?
Mayor Coombs, the first item is ordinance 2014-41, which is a bill for an ordinance making additional appropriations for the expenses and liabilities of the city of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2014. There is no formal staff presentation on this item, but we do have folks present to address questions.
Any questions from council? Well, first we have questions from council, and now I'll open this up for public hearing. Is there anybody from the audience that would like to speak on ordinance 2014-41? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I would like to move passage of ordinance 2014-41.
Second. Okay, let's vote. That passes 7-0.
Mayor Coombs, your next item is ordinance 2014-42, a bill for an ordinance amending Title 4, Chapter 4.04 of the Municipal Code for the City of Longmont, extending the existing three-quarters cent street system maintenance and improvement sales and use taxes, referring said extension to a vote of the qualified electors and providing for the expiration of said taxes on December 31st, 2026. Before I turn this over to Nick, I want to just let you know that there was a substitute ordinance placed in your packet. There was only one change, but it is substantive. Section 4, page 6, line 4, should be a special municipal election, not a regular municipal election. So you will need to substitute the one you passed on first reading for this one tonight.
Okay.
And Nick Wolfram is here to make a short presentation.
Go ahead, Nick.
Good evening, Mayor Coombs, members of council. Nick Wolfram, Engineering Services Manager with Public Works and Natural Resources. And we are here this evening. This is a second reading ordinance for the extension of the street fund sales and use tax. We came to you in April of this year and made a presentation about the street fund sales tax, which originally was approved in 86, I think, and has been renewed several times since then, and talked about the recommendations that the Transportation Advisory Board made to you. You directed staff at that point in time to come back with an ordinance to place this on the ballot in November, and we've done that, and that is what is before you this evening. The funds that this tax generate are critical to the city. They are the primary funding source for maintenance and improvements to our street and transportation system. And we always start out with maintenance. Maintenance and rehabilitation are maintaining that existing infrastructure that we've got, whether it's snow plowing, keeping the signals running, pavement markings, our rehabilitation program that's ongoing right now. And as you drive around town, you'll see many of the new seal coats and overlays that we've been doing, the concrete repair. I will correct Jeff, it's actually 330 miles of streets. We've added some, and a lot more than that of lane miles. If Tom Street was here, he would, as he did last night to Jeff, quote you the number of square feet of pavement that exists out there. But it's an awesome amount of infrastructure that's necessary to serve the city. Our transportation system management looks at things like pedestrian improvements, our school crossing program, bicycle improvements, and our capital improvement program. Basically, any improvement that has been made to the city's street system since 1986 was made possible by this. If it wasn't our own money, it was federal or state dollars, and we got those because we had these dollars to use as our matching funds. So when you talk about improvements to Hover Street, 17th Avenue, the Ken Pratt Boulevard extension, County Line Road, Airport Road, all of those improvements have been made possible by this source of revenues. When we talk about it, 2014 budget, that comes to about 72% of the total revenues for the street fund come from this sales and use tax. Without it, we're losing 75 cents on every dollar. When you look at the total taxes paid in Longmont, 3.275% of that total of little over 8% is the city's sales tax. Of that,
Just go back one sec.
you bet.
That total's supposed to be 8.0275.
You're right. My math's wrong. No, it is. I'm sorry. I'll check that. Make sure it gets right before we use this again. Thank you. Good catch. Longmont sales tax of 3.275%. 3/4 cents of that is the street fund. The rest of it, general fund, public improvement fund, public safety, and open space. When you look at Longmont sales tax compared to other communities, we are down pretty low. We're down towards the bottom. Tacona, Firestone, Lakewood, Loveland, and Lyons are below us. Loveland, though, does have extra sales tax that's charged out at Centera area. So we're fairly low by comparison to most of our community neighbors along the Front Range, Colorado. The proposed extension, the key components of it, it's not a tax increase. It's extending the same amount of tax that's currently charged and paid today. Our existing tax expires December 31st, 2016. This would extend that. It continues on with an investment in maintenance, safety, and improvements. Maintaining the existing system first and foremost, keeping it operating in a safe manner for everyone in the community who uses it every day, and also improvements to create the improvements that we need to serve the future of this community, jobs, employment, and people just getting around town. It's on the ballot now for a 10-year term. That's different from the 5-year terms we've used in the past. One of the reasons that we did that this year is to allow for longer-term planning. We have some projects that need some longer-term planning. When we're going forth, I'm meeting tomorrow with staff to start talking about TIP application projects that we're going to be making to DRCOG for federal funds. Right now, we're saying we can't tell them that we'll have money in 2018 or 2019 as matching funds. By giving us this for 10 years, it helps us a lot in going after those matching dollars because we can identify those as grant opportunities come along. So what would be funded in 10 years? Maintaining the existing system, maintenance operations, snow plowing, maintaining the signals, the signs, the striping, pothole patching, all of the day-to-day operations that go on, street sweeping. Our street rehabilitation program at about $53 million over that 10 years. TSM type projects, pedestrian, bicycle improvements, 5.8 along with that other 5.7 at TSM. Our street master plan identified some major improvements that we talked to you about in April also. $23.7 million worth of improvements were identified. Not all of those are ones we're going to be tackling in this period, but we're going to get a start on them. Flood improvements also. As we look at these improvements, we need to improve, as we've talked about the work that the city's trying to do on the St. Vrain River corridor to protect the community from future flood events. We need to improve these bridge structures so that they'll pass those storm events, so that our community won't be cut in half again the next time we have a flood that's coming through. We also have one that's a pure bridge rehabilitation project on 3rd Avenue over the railroad tracks. And when we look at those, the major capital improvement projects are going to be continued widening of Ken Pratt Boulevard from Nelson to Pratt Parkway. We're getting ready to start pretty quickly on a project that's going to do that from the intersection through the intersection from South Pratt Parkway on over. But we need to extend that widening of that road. If you have been on Pratt Parkway during PM peak, cars are not rushing during the rush hour. It's down to a crawl, and it's tough. Same on Hover, some widening on Hover between the intersection of State Highway 119 up to Boston Avenue. There'll be intersection improvements at Hover, at Clover Basin, and Nelson. Hover 119, Clover Basin, and Nelson to supplement those and keep traffic flowing. And then these are the bridge projects that we've identified. Hover Street, Boston Avenue, the existing street fund sales tax is paying for the Main Street and South Pratt Parkway bridges that are under design right now. And the Main Street Bridge will start this winter. And then the Sunset Street Bridge is the one we're working on through with Boulder County and the Federal Highway Administration funds because of the damage that it saw through the flooding in September. Next steps. Council is going to take action tonight on the ordinance on second reading to place that on the ballot. It will be for the November 4th, 2014 election. If approved, council consideration of a resolution of support, if that ordinance is approved tonight, we'll be bringing back for council consideration a resolution of support for that. We'll also be working on preparing factual information that can be provided to the public and pro and cons about that, as we're allowed to do. And we'll be working on that towards the election that will be in November. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
First, I have
Barber here also, so.
make a clarification. That was the right number, that 8.075. There was a quick change during the year where one of the parameters in the state changed. So you're right.
Good.
I was wrong.
I got that from Jim, and I wasn't gonna.
That's correct.
I wasn't gonna bust Jim for that right now.
Councilmember Levison.
But isn't that the rule of thumb? The accountant is never wrong.
The accountant is never wrong.
Oh, okay. I just, not specifically a question, but just some clarification. In the ordinance that we're updating, there had been this percentage breakdown in previous reauthorizations of this and extensions of the tax. You didn't note that in your presentation, but can you give a reason why we are not looking at specific numbers committed to specific types of projects?
Thank you. That's a very good point.
in the original ordinance that we adopted this, when we first went out to the public, we were trying to be very clear on what we were doing with it. And we went so far as to say we're going to break those numbers down by what we believed at the time was the needs, and I think it's proved out between with a certain percentage going to street maintenance, those in-house maintenance issues that we do, a certain percentage going to rehabilitation of our program. I believe that one's 31%. 9% to TSM, Transportation System Management, 21% to capital. The problem that we've looked at lately, and we discussed that, and so we always keep track of that to make sure that that is how those revenues are spent. But as we discussed, when you look at a project like an airport road project that we did, or a county line road improvement, the question starts to come down to, are you rehabilitating that existing 2-lane road that's out there? Is it a capital improvement? Are the bike lanes a TSM improvement? How do those things break out? And there are so many different ways to look at that. It became what we believed was really a futile effort, and the best way for that to operate is the way we do through all of our other infrastructure funds in the city, is through the city's CIP and budget process. But the intentions are still the same, that we're looking for spending this money, maintenance, rehabilitation, safety, and improvements to the system. So that won't change, but we're not handcuffing ourselves with those specific expenditure percentages.
And I do like the way that you characterize the fact that it's we're going to address all different kinds of needs, even though we're not forcing ourselves into this kind of cattle chute of specific allocations in boxes where one year you may need more in a certain area, and this gives us less of this top-down inflexibility that we really don't need because we've been responsible on it. The other point I would like to bring up is that I do like to see those signs that have already started popping up. 9th Avenue, I noticed, the project that we did, the CIP project to add the sidewalk on the south side of 9th Avenue, had a sign saying, "This is your money at work." And I appreciate those signs, and it's great to have the public see those projects. So keep putting those signs up, please.
And that's a perfect example, because that one was one where we used, as Councilmember Santos is nodding his head, we used TSM funds for that sidewalk. We used our rehab program to come in and put the seal coat down. We also put in that new crossing medium through our safety funds. So we used a variety of things to try and get a corridor that's really a vastly improved, much safer and efficient corridor for all of the users of that road, whether they're driving, walking, or biking.
Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I had a question, and I meant to call earlier because it's probably just something I don't know. In Section 2, lines 13 through 15, it says, sales tax levied, allocation of increased tax for open space acquisition and maintenance of street maintenance system and improvements from special public improvement funds, sunset clause. Why is open space thrown in there? I just don't understand why it's in there, since it's a sales tax for streets. It's lines 13, 14, and 15.
Actually, I'm going to take a stab at that because I looked at it very closely when we were preparing this, and I had the same question.
Yeah.
That section of the code refers to the two taxes that we have that have a sunset clause. And so the two that have a sunset clause are the open space tax and this one. And so that's why they're both called out here.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a consolidated code that refers to those sections of sales tax.
Okay, any further questions? If not, I'm going to open this up for public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that'd like to testify at this time? Okay, I guess seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I would move ordinance 2014-42.
We asked you to substitute motion.
Substitute with 43, is that what we're doing?
Just substituting the version that's in your packet tonight for the one that was introduced on
With the substitution. How's that?
Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad we're finally here to see going from a 5-year to a 10-year.
to be able to plan for longer, one, for a longer extension, but be able to plan for better projects. This allows the city to do that. So I would hope that everyone votes for this. So, thank you.
All right, let's vote. Wow, passes 7-0. Thank you
very much.
Mayor Coombs, you now need to vote on the amended ordinance.
Okay.
Because you just voted to substitute
Substitute,
that.
okay.
ordinance.
That's right. Substitute. Okay, can I have a motion on the amended substituted motion? Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move that we that we vote on the amended motion.
Okay, let's vote.
Sushi is German.
7-0.
Mayor Coombs, your next item is are two ordinances. First is ordinance 2014-43, a bill for an ordinance authorizing the city of Longmont to lease the real property known as the Hartman Open Space, the premises, to Syke Farms LLC, the tenant. And ordinance 2014-44, a bill for an ordinance authorizing the city of Longmont to lease the real property known as the Herner Open Space, the premises, to Syke Farms LLC, the tenant. You can hold one public hearing for both ordinances, but we'll need to vote on the leases separately.
Okay. Okay, is there any questions from council on this? Okay, I'll go ahead and open this up for public hearing. So I'm now opening the public hearing on both ordinances, 2014-43 and 44. If anybody would like to speak on either one of those ordinances, please come down.
Kate Bissinger, 2199 Creekside Drive. Again, I hadn't planned on coming to council tonight, so I have prepared remarks. But I did glance through the two open space leases. And it just takes me back to fall of 2011, so my memory may be a little foggy on precision here. But at the time that open space taxes and an open space policy was developed, there was nothing in that policy authorizing oil and gas drilling and fracking. So it looks like we've got a situation, and there are clauses in these new leases that have to do with oil and gas. So it looks like everything is connected to everything anymore. No one in this town, unless they are insiders with the oil and gas industry, ever imagined that we'd be talking about oil and gas drilling and fracking and open space. In fact, that was the issue that first alerted me to this. In our election survey in October of 2011, for the most part standard, but in the middle of it was an extraneous question to the effect of, would you be okay with oil and gas drilling on Longmont's open space? And my radar went off. And here we are, 3 years later, talking about provisions that have to address oil and gas on open space. We definitely need local control. Land use rights, people's rights. I hope that you probably have no choice but to go forward with those clauses, but as I reported down the line with the ancillary agreement for the dismissal of the reg suit, as you are sucked in to this alleged building commission and what flows from it, we need some real protections for communities, not just Longmont's communities, but everybody's communities. I'm sad that we're here at this point in time having to deal with it. And I ask the heavens, how do we get to a point when oil and gas and mineral rights trumps every other issue, human rights, that we supposedly were guaranteed when this country was founded? Thanks.
Thank you. Is anybody else who'd like to come speak at this public hearing? I guess seeing no one, I'll now close the public hearing on ordinance 2014-43 and 44. So now open the discussion to Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I would move passage of ordinance 2014-43.
Second. Okay, Councilmember Christensen.
Well, I have a question. Since I didn't read that carefully enough, but I noticed there is indeed mention of that. Do we have currently oil and gas interests on that open space? On either of those open spaces?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kim Sugar, Natural Resources Manager. Currently, the Hartman property does have a lease by Noble Energy. They're going through a process of plugging and abandoning. Additionally, while this clause is in here, is that Excel does have a right, an easement for a gas line. So we have this language in here, so if they do disturb the property and they take that from the current ag operator, that they have to compensate, or we have to reduce the lease by the lease rate to the landowner.
Any other questions? Councilmember, Paul, you're still on. Councilmember Blakely.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Looking at 10.3, it's not, I don't read it, I certainly understand the concerns, and I can't wait till the 26th when we can address, I think, the overall arching concern, or the arcing concern of what we're going to do with the fracking ban lawsuit and the appeal and those possibilities. However, 10.3, it looks like, I read it just that it's stating that in the event that the oil and gas companies do something outside of the city's control, the people leasing the land aren't going to be stuck with the bill. They're just making sure that, hey, if I can't use that land, I don't want to be paying you for it. So I don't think that it's giving any power to, I'm not our attorney, but I don't think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. May, but it's not giving any authority, permissions, etc. It's just basically if the COGCC and COGA come in and do their business like they always do, then who's ultimately going to get stuck with the tab? And it's not going to be the people leasing the land. That's all it says.
No, it's also 2.1 condition. Okay. So we've got a motion that's been seconded. Let's vote. Okay, that passes 7-0. Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I would move ordinance 2014-44.
Second. I was first. The record.
Wait a second. Any further questions? Seeing none, let's vote. That passes 7-0.
Mayor Coombs, your next item is ordinance 2014-45, a bill for an ordinance amending Title II of the Longmont Municipal Code on gifts and donations to the city. There is no formal staff presentation on this item, but we do have folks in the audience to answer questions.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing on ordinance 2014-45. Oh, Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I actually learned something when I was sitting as liaison for the museum board, and that is people give stuff to the city, and it's really hard to get rid of, and so they don't have to pay for it. It goes into storage like Indiana Jones, and so I think this is a pretty good idea to actually put some order to it, rather than just sticking it into storage, never to be seen again. So anyway, just my 2 cents. Although we're very grateful for all the past contributions and gifts that we've received as a city, regardless of their aesthetic appeal.
Okay, I'll open this up for public hearing. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak on ordinance 2014-45? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing on ordinance 2014-45. Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move ordinance 2014-45.
Second. All right, so moved and seconded. Let's vote. That passes 7-0.
Okay, your next we are at the consent agenda. First item is Resolution 2014-62, a resolution of the City of Longmont approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the State Board of the Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund for grant funding for the Longmont flood recovery. Item 9B is Resolution R 2014-69, approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the Colorado Department of Public Safety, Division of Homeland Security Management for grant funding for channel grading and replacement of South Pratt Parkway and Main Street bridges over St. Vrain Creek. Item 9C is Resolution 2014-70, submitting the ballot question of extending the existing 3/4-cent street system maintenance and improvement sales and use taxes through December 31st, 2026 to the registered electors of the City of Longmont at a special municipal election to be held November 4th, 2014. This is different than the ordinance. This actually calls the election for you. Resolution 2014-71, approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and Boulder County for the conduct of the 2014 coordinated election to be held on November 4th, 2014. Item 9E is Resolution 2014-72, approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and Weld County and the Weld County Clerk and Recorder for the conduct of the 2014 coordinated election to be held on November 4th, 2014. Item 9F is Resolution 2014-73, approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the Regional Air Quality Council for grant funding for electric vehicles. Item 9G is accepting 6 capital improvement program amendments approved previously by the city manager. Item 9H is approving 2 capital improvement program amendments. And item 9I is appoint Charlie Fellenbaum to the Cable Trust Board. Staff does not have a need to pull any of these items.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I would move the consent agenda.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. Okay, that passes 7-0. Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Are you guys ready to go into general business, or you want to take a break? Okay. Mayor Coombs, I move that we recess as the Longmont City Council and convene as the Longmont Urban Renewal Authority.
I second that. Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. That passes 7-0. So now we are convened as the Longmont Urban Renewal Authority.
Excuse me. And the first item, Chair Coombs, the first item on your agenda is the LURA Resolution 2014-07, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Longmont Urban Renewal Authority enacting a supplemental budget and making an additional appropriation for the expenses and liabilities of the authority for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2014. There is no formal staff presentation on this item, but Teresa Malloy is here to address questions if you have any.
Okay, is there any questions for Teresa? Councilmember Larson.
I'm just curious, it didn't specifically state in the communication to the URA board that the $250,000 of expenses would come from the COP. I'm seeing Mr. Golden nod his head. It does come from the COP proceeds. It just, usually you spell it out, and that's why I'm asking.
Mayor, Chairman Kumas, members of the authority, that's correct. It is coming from the COP.
Chairman, Commissioner Bagley.
Thank you, Chairman Coombs. So I guess my question is, why do we need the extra money? What are we appropriating it for? What will it be used for? Why the change?
I'm blanking.
I guess the reason I ask while you think is just because I know that there were people concerned before that we were giving away money, subsidizing the mall, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm back. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Golden.
Chairman Coombs and Commissioner Bagley. So this actually is dollars that the city is using for a owner's rep on the project. And this is hasn't been appropriated yet, so we're not adding anything new. This is part of the whole. It's not part of $27.5 million. It's identified costs that we had in addition to that. You'll recall we had over $1 million of identified costs that were Lura and City, and this $250,000 had not been expended yet. Most of that other $1 million had been expended over the past year for legal expenses and such. So this hasn't been spent yet. This is so that we can have an owner's rep on the project that can manage our interests.
So to be clear, we're not going over budget. We are not giving any money, any more additional funds to Newmark Merrill, and it's something that that was anticipated by city staff and planned for. It's just that we're now pulling the trigger and giving you the $250.
Correct. So we won't go over budget if you pass this, right? So we need the authority so we don't go over the budget, but we're not spending any more than we told you when we issued the COPs.
Fundamentally, the owner's rep is an accountability mechanism to make sure that what was included in this is being done and being done appropriately. And I believe this position is going to help in the reimbursement process as well.
Thank you. No, that's a separate.
We've got a different, we've got two roles, but it's the accountability section.
Commissioner Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions, so unless there are other questions.
Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you. I just want to know, is this a person, or is it are we hiring a consultancy? Or does it pay part of David Starnes' salary?
Good evening, Mayor Coombs, members of council. Good evening, Mayor Coombs, members of council. Nick Wolf from Engineering Services Manager. We're hiring a consulting firm to help us with on-site inspection and management work because of a project of this magnitude and the complexities of it. We needed that. We did not, with our current workload, we didn't have the resources to do that, so we've been evaluating, looking at consultants in this sort of an area to offset peak demand that we have. That way we're not paying them for when we don't need them there. We're paying them for the hours that they are working. So we put out an RFP and selected a firm. They're going to be working not only on the civil side of things, but also will be assisting building inspection on some of that so that we have somebody literally on site to do that work for us. So it is selection of a firm rather than an individual. We felt that was the best way to get those services done, most cost-effective manner.
And so my interpretation of that in plain language is it's somebody that we're hiring to watch them dig and watch them move the pipes around and make sure everything's done according to code, but they won't actually be doing the inspections, will they?
They will be doing some of the inspection work for us. They will be working with our staff who will be called out at critical times, but they will be our daily eyes on the job site. They'll also be tracking quantities so that as we make payments with the city's funds, we know that we're paying for work that has been done and that has been done correctly.
Great. So there are eyes and ears and making sure that no corners are cut and all that good stuff. Okay.
Yes.
Touching on this is, as we look at in terms of capacity issues and inspections, one of the things we have is we have a large volume of permits being submitted right now. And so this is an extension of, and you may see this again if activity picks up, versus looking at hiring a position. We're looking more at the contracting side because, as Nick indicated, what you want to do is make sure you're paying for work that's actually being done, and you're managing your peaks via contract instead of trying to staff to your peaks. And so this is something that we will see potentially in other areas as volume increases.
Commissioner Santos.
Thank you, Chairman Coombs. I move resolution LURA 2014-07.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I'd just like to say before we vote that this is probably money well spent to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's as things are getting built. So I know a lot of things are happening in the city, and I just think that this is a great thing that the city's doing, recognizing that this is such a big investment that we need to be sure that it's all done correctly. So. Okay, that passes 7-0. Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move we adjourn as the Longmont Urban Renewal Authority and reconvene as the Longmont City Council.
Second.
Okay, it's a motion's been made by Commissioner Santos and seconded by, who seconded it? Commissioner Moore. All right, let's vote.
Wow. Council games.
That passes 7-0. So now it's time for final call, public invited to be heard. Is anybody from the public who'd like to speak at final call, public invited to be heard? All right. Now it's time for mayor and council comments. Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I'd like to announce my business of the week. This week it will be the Flight Deck Grill out at the airport. They're open 7:30 to 2, Wednesday through Sunday, and they have exciting things to eat like the Top Gun burrito and the Slurry Bomber float. So next time you need a little snack, stop by the Flight Deck Grill. I also want to congratulate Ziggy's Coffee. It's their 10th anniversary of their opening, and so congratulations to Ziggy's as well.
Councilmember Wilson.
I just wanted to point out a piece of correspondence we received last week, a postcard regarding a summit to educate and inform business leaders and policy leaders like the councils around the importance of participation in early childhood education. It's being put on by the United Way of Broomfield and Boulder counties and many other groups, and I believe it's the 28th of August, but we got a postcard last week, and I would encourage council members to see if you can't talk to a business owner, corporation vice president or president or CEO to see if they wouldn't attend, because this is really in effect early childhood issues affect the workforce, not just the future workforce, the current workforce. And it's a very important issue being taken up by a large group of sponsors, and I believe our Chamber of Commerce is going to be participating in it as well.
I participated in a fundraiser for Care for Hounds at the 300 Suns on Sunday, and I was just so thankful that Councilmember Santos did not show up, because last time I was in a dark tank, I think he hit 10 out of 12 shots. So thank you for not being here.
You're welcome.
So, City Manager, any additional remarks?
Yes, Mayor. Actually, Sandy, do you have it ready to roll? As you know, we have been working on the new website, the new city website, and I wanted Sandy to briefly provide you with a demonstration, but it seems like we're okay.
I got some email from some city clerk singing her praises.
Yeah, go ahead and talk through it.
Mayor and Council, Sandy Cedar, Assistant City Manager. This is the new website, and what's wonderful about it is that if you log into it again, in a minute, the picture in the background changes to show all the different and various views of Longmont. We're going to change it for seasons and change it just to make sure that all the wonderful aspects of Longmont, live pictures from here are seen every time someone gets onto the website. You'll notice that we have done a couple of really cool things. Let me start back over here. I'll start way over here at the beginning. So we have a top navigation. That these are the things that are really kind of the top getters for what happens that people are looking for on our website. We have the calendar, which is a combined calendar. You can search that based on whether it's a meeting you're looking for or senior activities, events, those kind of things can be sorted that way. It can be downloaded onto your Google calendars or other calendars. We have a new e-notification system, which you'll be able to sign up for all sorts of different topics, and we'll put out e-notifications. We currently have something similar in e-news, but we'll be expanding this into the future. We have FAQs, where we have literally hundreds of questions that people can ask, and they can sort by category or, kind of whatever they're looking for. Jobs, believe it or not, is our #1 search site of all the things on the city site. So this is an example of our citywide FAQs. You'll notice that the background kind of stays pretty and Longmonty, and yet you have opportunities to be able to see answers to tons of different questions. And we did something actually based, and there's, of course, contact us about Longmont, et cetera. One of the things that we actually changed, which was something that Harold looked at, was this mega menu. So instead of having to click and then go down and click and then go down and click, this is called a mega menu, where all of your choices are just seen right there. So you can see some of those. All of our pictures are local pictures of Longmont. We did our usability study on Wednesday, and it came back with really, really good information. This I Want To was the most popular site that they saw. Plus, you may notice that there is on the homepage a gigantic search engine, because as it turns out, people really do most of their web work through searching rather than going through and looking at the different menus. They're there to be able to help people navigate, but the reality is that people just search for it. So we made the search bar very prominent.
So part of the conversation on that, there's essentially two types of users. There's a point-and-click user, and then there's a search user. And as we discussed this, I'm a search user. I will find the search bar and type in what I need, because that's what I'm used to. Others want to point-and-click. This website really accomplishes both of those depending on your user preference. And so we really think that's a good function in the process.
Definitely. And then on this homepage, you'll see that there's kind of 4 categories. The upcoming events, as people put things in the calendar, it pops to the homepage automatically. So it really is a web and not just a book with lots of pages. We have an area that we can spotlight different types of things that are happening around the city. And all the news releases go right on the homepage without having to do any additional work for that. The Find Services really was a way for people to be able to do the most prominent things that we do: apply, pay for your utility bill, look for facilities, and that type of thing. And one of the wonderful functionality pieces is that this is called a responsive template. What that means is that regardless of whether you're on your iPad, your desktop, or your mobile phone, the display actually moves with whatever kind of device you're using to be able to give you a good experience regardless of what you're looking at. So it's, thank you. So Susan Locke, our web coordinator, Rigo Liel, our PIO, and the whole web team have put in countless hours on this website. This is the draft website. We'll start to do migration very quickly, and once we have confirmed that the migration was successful, we'll send an email out to everyone so that you can go check it out.
One of the things that we really focused on is minimize the clicks that you had to utilize to go to various sites. We also realized that our website was data intensive, and you could get lost in it. So part of this is a cleanup, and we're also focusing on making it easier to access and get the information with minimal clicks. And those were really some of the guiding principles that we used in this process.
Absolutely. There's social media sites that became much more prominent down here at the bottom. Some of the menus, it's a much more cleaned up look. Our current website is 3,000 plus pages. And so just in the cleanup of that, it was, a wonderful feeling to purge lots of that information that really we're finding people aren't interested in or is outdated whatever that looks like. This is going to make it much easier to update. Because it's that responsive design and because it's really a web, it's a content management system. People can put their information in one place and be able to populate it in many places that people might search for it rather than having to go in and change it on this page and that page and this page and that page. The other nice piece about our contract is that once we get through this, in a couple years, the company that we're using will provide a refresh of the website at no additional charge. So our hope is that once we launch this and hopefully people love the new design and love the ease and the navigation, and in a few years we'll refresh it again to try to make sure that we're keeping up with the web technology that's happening in the world.
CRTS component and eliminating.
CRTS component. So there is a service request component, and so what this looks like is currently people can just kind of write about anything that they're interested in, and it goes to our office, and then we route it to the right city staff. In the service request component of the website, what happens is people put in what their question is. The site searches for anything that might answer that question first, and then if they don't have an answer to that question, they can actually log in, create an account, submit a service request. It goes directly to that service provider. They then have a direct conversation back and forth about whatever the issue is, and so hopefully we'll be able to deliver much faster service through the web portal. So on the left-hand side, these are all different topics and FAQs that people can just check on. But if it doesn't satisfy them, then they sign up for an account. And what's nice about it is that they can see everything that the service provider said around it. They can say, I sent out Tom at this time to be able to fill a pothole, and they can really track what's happening for their specific requests. So
reduces steps in the process, and really the city manager's office has acted as a conduit, pulls them out. And on the back side of it, when we look at ETS, this function's being absorbed in this program, and so we no longer need that software piece that we've been working on at the same time.
That's exactly right. So we save, $25,000 in the process of reducing that CRTS. There's a couple other functionalities of the site is that we have a font size changer. So if you'd like to have the font size become bigger and bigger. We also have an auto translate. This goes live. It's up here, translate. It goes live once the site goes live. It's basically based on Google Translate, so it will translate this page into, I think, 54 different languages. And one of the things that we're looking at is sometimes Spanish translation specifically is not awesome, literally. So what we're going to ask staff to do is once the translate button works, is to translate. We're going to ask our bilingual staff to take a look, translate things into Spanish, and make sure we're not saying something that would be inappropriate. So that's kind of how we're going to deal with some of that functionality. What's really nice is that you have the feedback button on every single site. The print is going to be an easy screen. You're not going to have to change to landscape or anything to that effect. You can share and bookmark. You can Facebook. You can tweet things off this site. Extremely easy. There are tons of great pictures when you get into the different community pages, and all those pictures were part of the You Belong in Longmont campaign with Nathan Pulley doing a good chunk of those. But one of the things that we heard was, please show our community. And so all the sites, all the pictures that are in here, and there are a ton of them, are just beautiful pictures of Longmont all the way through the site.
Yes, so are the pictures going to be seasonal, like these look like summertime pictures because we're summertime? Are we going to have some of the beautiful fall pictures during the fall, and is it going to change with the season? So we have, like, in December, we don't have, Main Street with, flowers, but we have...
Certainly the homepage will change seasonally and changes to things like you've already seen now, 3 different homepage pictures. So the homepage will change regularly. The individual pages, it kind of depends what that department is focusing on. So recreation, for example, that's something that Sue and I have talked about, that she's excited to put on pictures of ice skating when it comes time for ice skating. It's very easy for staff to put in pictures and to be able to upload videos and do all sorts of work that really I think the public is craving. So I am just eternally grateful to the Web Committee for all the work that they have done, and to Susan and Rigo for heading this project, and I'm excited to see what the reaction is when it goes live.
Thank you. It's awesome. Can't wait to get on and play.
Please do.
No more comments, Mayor.
Okay. City Attorney, any comments?
No comments, Mayor.
All right, this meeting is adjourned.
Forgot about it.